What should you look for when choosing a new curriculum? So let's talk curriculum. There are so many options and choices out there, it can be overwhelming to figure out which one to choose.
We want to share with you what are some things that we look for in a curriculum, hopefully to give you some tools and tips on what you can also look for.
So the number one thing I look for, depending on which subject it is that it comes from a biblical worldview. For math in LA, it's not really a big deal, but for me, I really like my science and my history, obviously my Bible, to be taught from a Christian worldview. Now for some of you out there, it may not be a big deal to go with the secular curriculum that talks about evolution or many of the other current topics that are sort of a debate for us out there. But for me, I just prefer to avoid that stuff so I don't have to reteach it to my kid or explain to them why it's in there. It's good for them to know what's going on in the world and what other people may believe. Maybe in the future I will change my stance on this, but as for right now, I just like to keep it simple, keep it from a biblical worldview, and make it easy.
And I also want to be the one that introduces a lot of these topics to the kids so that I know if I'm getting a curriculum that is from a Christian perspective, I know that I don't have to worry about extra things that the world might want to teach them, that I want to be the one who actually teaches it to them. You could also get a secular curriculum and just incorporate things that your family prioritizes that the curriculum might not include.
Another thing we look for in curriculum is a variety in the curriculum. So not doing the same exact thing every single day. Having different activities planned out. Not every page looks the same because it gets boring really, really quick.
So for example, a lot of curriculums are really built on this, and it's really hard to find one that kind of stays away from it. But usually most curriculums will have kind of the same layout, and if not, they'll have the same thing on Monday as the next Monday as the following Monday with maybe a different vocab word or maybe with a different letter. So I know that in the younger grades, they'll usually introduce a letter on Monday, do something with that on Tuesday, maybe a puzzle on Tuesday, then on Wednesday it'll be writing some words with that letter, but it'll be the same thing just with a different letter. And I think many kids can thrive on repetition, but there are tons of kids out there who really, really get bored from that repetition. So definitely figure out what kind of learning style your child can thrive in.
I'm definitely one of the people that gets bored with the repetition and the same thing over and over again. My daughter's in kindergarten and we've already gone through 3 different reading curriculum, and she has not, she's almost finished finally with the 3rd one, but I just don't like getting bored with things.
This one is a big one for me, and I think it's a big one for many people when it comes to some subjects. But I love my curriculum to have an answer key. And guys, I'm not just talking about math. Actually, math is my strong point, and so I wouldn't even care about an answer key for math. But all the other ones, history and science, all these other subjects that I'm not really strong in, I want the answers there. When you're asking me, why did Billy do so-and-so, and it was somewhere in the story, I might have walked out in that time and didn't actually hear that answer. So I want the answer in my teacher guide. That way when the student is answering, I know what I missed using that guide.
So for example, with Beautiful Feet, this is a curriculum that I was super duper excited about. It incorporates a lot of literature and live books.
And this is the one that I started using at the beginning of this last year.
And I actually lent it to her this year because her kids are old enough for it. And she did not like it because it did not include answers, which is something I never thought about. I'm still going to try it with my kids because I just love the idea of this, and I'm curious to see if it bothers me as much as it's bothered her.
And honestly, if you're a person who's a sponge and can pick up science and history and not need the answers, you'll be fine with this. But like I said, I'm totally math inclined, and so when I'm reading anything related to history, half the things are going in one ear, out the other, because I'm watching the 2-year-old to make sure he's not getting into anything. And so I totally miss a lot of information as I'm trying to read it to them or as I have somebody else read it. This one is a big one. We need a curriculum that is open and go, not one that's asking me to order things ahead of time or prepping things or assembling things together or making photocopies of something. Even though it's okay once in a while for that to happen, I really need to be able to open and be like, this is what the lesson is. I do not have time the night before to prep for everything. There was a chapter in my life where I was able to prep things and put things together for the next day, the activities, but I am definitely not in that chapter. So I want to make it as easy as possible. There are tons of other demands as a homeschooling mom that you have to take care of, keeping up with the house, cleaning, cooking, and everything else as you're keeping this full-time job of homeschooling. So definitely very, very crucial to be able to open and start teaching.
So I really struggle with this because ideally I also like open and go. I've tried different curriculum. Again, I tried multiple with my daughter, and I kind of always go back to the ones that are super open and go, but I love the idea of curriculum being fun, and so I struggle when it's just an open and go workbook, for example, because it's not much fun. It's not different, there's no hands-on things, and so even though I love the idea of open and go, again, I want to try this, but this does require more prep because I have to either buy the books for this. Too cheap to do that, so most likely what I will do is put books on hold at my library, so I have to gather the books and gather the materials, and I probably won't see the material until right before we use it since I have to borrow it, and so it's going to create more work for me, but I'm hoping I can still do it. We'll see if it drives me nuts. The last thing I look for in a curriculum, already mentioned this, is for it to be fun. So I really like using living books because for me, I'm a super huge nerd and I love to read. So I'm hoping my kids love to read, so using real books makes the curriculum fun. So that's why I'm really attracted to things like Beautiful Feet books or Sassafras Science, which we will talk about in another video, because all of those use stories to teach the kids, to relate to the kids.
And as much as I'd like to believe that I want fun, I just want basic to the point. I need to get this done because ain't nobody want to be doing school when it's 5 o'clock at night.
So it also depends on what your priorities are because she is homeschooling 3 kids, plus she has like a 2-year-old running around that she has to manage. So for her, it's more kind of about survival and being able to get it done in a day, whereas for me, right now, because our foster kids are not with us at the moment, we just have 2 kids and they're still young, so I have time to make it fun. When I'm further down the road like she is, I may not be able to do the fun curriculum anymore either, and I may need to go with the open and go and the less prep work involved. But as of right now, since my kids are young, I want them to love learning. So I'm trying to lay that foundation where school is not a hassle or a chore. I want it to be fun and an activity that they ask every day, like, Mommy, is it time for school yet? I'm ready to do school, because that's where they're at this moment. And I'm hoping that that like love for it and that excitement for it stays with them. I know it won't always, but I'm trying to like ride that out as long as possible.
And if you do have young kids, I would highly encourage you that you look for the fun part of curriculums. But at the same time, you will get to that place where you're burned out, some kids are burned out, and you're like, I just need to get the basics in. And as long as they're learning and we are surviving and not finishing, like I said, at 5 or 6, then we're good.
Mamas, what are some things you look for in curriculum? Is there anything that we missed or anything that you disagree with here that you're like, nope, that is definitely not something I look for in my curriculum?
And if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscribe so you can get our weekly alerts. And don't forget to hit the like if you found anything helpful. See you guys next time.
Welcome to the Balanced Mom.
So let's talk curriculum. There are so many... Are you serious?